As a woodworker, you're very familiar with the throat plate that comes with your table saw. These have a fairly big opening in the center of them, which allows the saw blade to cut at either 90 degrees or tilt all the way down to 45 without contacting the plate, and that's a good thing. Usually, you're doing all of your cutting with the blade set at 90 degrees, which makes this opening too big for the table saw blade. The problem there is as the blade cuts through this, what's going to happen is it's going to leave chip out on your high-grade plywoods and also on your more brittle hardwoods. So what we want to do is replace this throat plate with what you see in the saw right now, and that's a zero clearance insert. A couple of ways to do that. One is to look at the commercial aftermarket business, and you'll find some of these that are made for your saw. Just need to know the manufacturer of your saw. This one's made out of ultra-high molecular weight, or UHMW. It's got a splitter in it already. But the material I really like to use for this is this multi-ply plywood we talked about a little bit earlier. This is 1/2 inch. It's the same thickness as the throat plate that you're replacing. And all you do to make these is use your existing throat plate as a template, trace the outlines and cut them on the table saw and bandsaw and sand them to size, slide them into the opening, slide your fence over the top, and just crank that spinning blade up and then back down again. The groove that's cut in there will be exactly the width of the table saw blade, and you'll get no chip out anymore, and it's a lot safer. You won't find pieces of material getting stuck between the blade and the saw. You won't find pieces shoot into the bottom of the table. It works really well. One of the problems you're going to find, though, is that when you insert this piece of plywood that you've cut into the table saw to make that first cut, it's not going to fit down into the saw. And that's because none of these table saw blades go much deeper than 1/4 inch into the table. They never had to because they were going through a very thin piece of metal that was already cut for them. So a couple options. You can route a groove down the inside to allow a little bit more clearance so that you can get the plate in there and then crank the blade up. But I found it's a lot easier. Just replace your 10-inch table saw blade with an 8-inch dado blade. Do the same operation, crank that blade up and down through it, then swap those blades back out to put your 10-inch blade back in there, and you're set to go. Make one of these for every cut you're planning on making. If you're using different size dado blades, make more of these. If you're doing it on an angle, make more still, and with a magic marker, mark them. You'll find you'll use them all the time. It's a great way to improve the accuracy of your cut and keep any of that chip out from happening. Now, to provide the leveling for this plate, all you need to do is use the same screws that came from your existing throat plate, although I would suggest that you buy new ones. They're available at all hardware stores. There's really no need to tap these holes. Just drill 4 holes. Use an Allen wrench to drive those screws in there until the nibs protrude from the other side. Making adjustments there will provide a perfectly flat plate, very much like the throat plate that you had.